the war in Ukraine, Russia, China, the rule of law, many issues have been dividing Hungary from the rest of the European Union. And Hungary has just taken over this July the presidency of the European Union. What kind of presidency will it be? We asked these questions to the Minister of European Affairs of Hungary, János Bóka. Minister János Bóka, welcome to Euronews. Let me ask you as a first question, is Russia an existential threat for the interest of the European Union, of Europe, and for its security? Or do you think that there are diverging interests that can be appeased or resolved through other means, like diplomatic means, political means?
I think that in a sustainable European security architecture, Europe needs to have some kind of a relationship with Russia. So if we're willing to build a sustainable security architecture for decades to come, somehow the relationship between Europe and Russia needs to be devised.
But don't you think that establishing clear red lines with Russia, it's part of constructing this architecture, security architecture we are talking about?
We, just like all member states of the European Union, believe that we need to fully support the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. I think this is beyond question. And I also believe that a sustainable security architecture is not possible without engaging Russia through diplomatic channels with the view to create a sustainable security architecture for Europe. And I think that we are not there yet, but I think the prerequisites for this kind of engagement needs to be created at some point.
But at the same time, there were criticism coming from the partner of the EU partner and NATO partner as well of Hungary for this initiative that was taken by Budapest, by the Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, to travel both to Moscow and Beijing. Was this an initiative that was taken as a formal part of EU presidency of the European Union by Hungary, or was it an individual initiative of the Prime Minister that was not discussed previously with the partners?
This was an individual initiative of the Prime Minister of Hungary. He made it clear on a number of occasions that he does not negotiate on behalf of the European Union because he does not have the competence or the mandate to do so. He also made it clear that his objective is not to present solutions or not to make new initiatives, but to go on a fact-finding mission and clarify certain issues. And after each and every meeting, he briefed the President of the European Council and the heads of state of the governments of the member states of the European Union.
But don't you think that, for instance, showing the videos of these trips with the logo of Hungarian presidency of the European Union, especially after what happened 2 days ago in Kiev with that terrible bombing of a pediatric hospital, was a little bit embarrassing both for Hungary and for the European Union?
The Kiev bombings is horrible. It's terrible, and I think that the loss of human life and damage that has been caused in this war, that suffered during this war, is just underscores the importance of the peace mission of the Prime Minister of Hungary.
Yeah, but don't you think there is a kind of lack of respect by Putin, by President Vladimir Putin, just after, say, 48 hours, or 3 days after the meeting with the Prime Minister of Hungary, he unleashed a very tough attack on the capital of Ukraine.
Let's not forget that Russia and Ukraine, they are at war. And I don't expect that parties that are conducting active hostilities will constrain themselves. what we expect from these trips is to provide additional information and input to the decision-making process of the European Union, where we will be able to find a ceasefire that would allow substantial peace talks to be conducted.
What are the bases for this ceasefire?
Well, this is what the Prime Minister wanted to find out during these trips, whether there is any willingness on behalf of the parties, and how the European institutions could be helpful, could be of assistance, of finding a just and sustainable way out of this military conflict.
Yeah, but we know that there are divergences and differences between Budapest and the rest of the European Union when it comes to support the army of Ukraine.
Well, this is a correct interpretation. Quite a few member states believe that our strategic objectives could be reached by military means on the battlefield. The intention of the Prime Minister was to provide additional information and clarification that could feed into these discussions.
Don't you think that there is a kind of inconsistency in the fact that the aim is to establish a kind of permanent security architecture, as you say, on the basis of a fire line and of a frozen conflict, basically, in the heart of Europe? Is that what you call a permanent security architecture?
Well, the shaping of a permanent security architecture is not Hungary's responsibility. But I think we can all agree that if there are active military hostilities between Russia and Ukraine, this is not a sustainable basis for any future security architecture in Europe. Somehow this military conflict needs to be ended, and this would provide any basis for discussion for the future security architecture.
NATO leaders have convened to supply Ukraine with no weaponry systems. Do you agree with this?
Well, Hungary took the decision from the very beginning of this conflict to provide wide-ranging assistance to Ukraine, including humanitarian assistance, including energy supply, and in a number of different areas. But we decided not to provide military assistance directly or indirectly to Ukraine in a way that can be used to project a deadly force.
Yeah, but it's in contradiction with the decision of a council that is to provide Ukraine and to, as you said before, the goal is to give Ukraine the strategic tools to defend itself by the use of force from a military point of view.
I don't see fundamental contradiction here. What I think the decision is to provide wide-ranging support to Ukraine in line with the security and defense policy and the interest of each and every member state. This is the decision that at least the European Union has been taken, and I think this is also in line with NATO commitments. We never disputed the right of member states to support Ukraine in other ways that we do.
But you are hindering anyway the supplies, the weapon supplies to Ukraine.
We provide support to Ukraine in line with our security and defense strategy and evaluation.
So you have a divergent concept of security when it comes to your country that is to be respected and legitimate, of course, but we have to state that there is a divergent concept of security for Hungary vis-à-vis NATO and vis-à-vis the European Union, the other partners.
I think it's more accurate to say that allies in NATO and partners in the European Union have a field of interpretation which is the basis of providing support to Ukraine, and Hungary is well within this accepted field of interpretation when it comes to security and defense interests of Europe and the transatlantic alliance.
Will you continue to block the European Peace Facility?
Well, the European Peace Facility is a very complex issue, and the question is not whether it's blocked or not blocked. The question is how the European Peace Facility could contribute to promoting the security interests of the European Union. And there are a number of issues that are open here. For example, the agreement among G7 member states, on providing a loan that could also be used for purchasing military equipment, and to channel this through the European Peace Facility, opened a number of questions related to the European Peace Facility. Our position is that all these issues need to be cleared, and then we finally need to take a political decision on the future of the European Peace Facility in general.
The goal is clear, is whether to give this money to the Ukrainians to reimburse the military spending or not. So this is basically the dilemma. So where is the complexity apart from the structure and the wording maybe of a peace facility mechanism?
Well, I think that the complexity and the strategic lack of clarity on the function of the EPF is quite clear from the beginning. I remember the first discussion when there was a tentative sum how much military aid should be provided to Ukraine, and then this sum has been increasing constantly and giving very divergent numbers and ways of financing.
You were also against the use of frozen assets, of a Russian frozen assets, of a profit coming from the Russian frozen assets, and you are still. Don't you think that after the attacks that we have seen recently in Kiev and in Ukraine, is the moment to change the policy?
The only question we have, whether the European Peace Facility is the best vehicle through which this money could be channeled to Ukraine. This is the question we have, and this also relates to the future of the European Peace Facility in general.
Will the presentation of Make Europe Great Again agenda by Prime Minister Viktor Orban at the European Parliament take place or not?
Well, the Prime Minister is ready to go to the European Parliament at the time that is convenient for the European Parliament. We have not received such an invitation from the European Parliament yet, but if and when we receive this invitation, the Prime Minister is ready and willing to go.
But don't you think that it's a little bit uncommon that you don't receive this invitation, that the government that has just taken over the presidency of the European Union has not received such an invitation by the European Parliament? By the way, it's part of a protocol.
Well, I would stop short of seeing any political intricacies here. What I know is that the European Parliament will have its first plenary session next week. Usually the European Parliament at the time of the institutional transition has 2 plenary sessions in July, and in this case the invitation usually goes for the 2nd July plenary session. This time the European Parliament has only 1 plenary session in July.
But the Hungarian presidency was scheduled since a long time.
Well, I think this question should be posed to the European Parliament. I believe that this is only a scheduling issue. I certainly don't believe that the European Parliament is not interested in sincere cooperation between the institutions during the Hungarian presidency.
Do you think that this 6 months will be the occasion for Hungary to, say, resolve this pending issue with the European Union concerning the rule of law?
Well, I've been engaged on behalf of the Hungarian government since 2018 in different procedures to cooperate with the institutions and settle outstanding political issues and concerns. The Hungarian government has been ready to do that on a constructive basis, and the Hungarian government is still ready to do this before and after the presidency. I don't see that the presidency has a special impact on this kind of relationship and the procedures.
Yeah, but it's politically embarrassing, don't you agree? The fact of having a pending issue concerning the rule of law, that it's a core of European Union treaties.
Well, I think the question is not about embarrassment. The question is that why we are in this situation and whether there is a political and technical way out. I believe that there is a way out. This is what the Hungarian government has been working on in the spirit of constructiveness and cooperation with the institution, and this we will continue to do.
Are the Article 7 and the source of the Article 7, the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the European Union, a kind of violation of the national sovereignty of EU countries and of Hungary, of course?
Well, when we joined the European Union, we made an evaluation whether the treaties are compatible with the Hungarian constitutional system, and this evaluation has been redone when we adopted the fundamental law of Hungary, that is the constitution of the country now. I believe that there is no fundamental or inherent constitutional conflict between the fundamental law of Hungary and the treaties as such. Of course, the institutions are adopting decisions based on these treaties. The question whether there is constitutional conflict between these decisions and the Hungarian fundamental law, this is something that needs to be examined on a case-by-case basis.
Aren't you afraid of the possible suspension of voting rights at the Council?
I am, to be afraid is, well, I'm not afraid of such decision. I mean,
Concern.
From time to time, there are initiatives or there is communication along these lines. I hope that at the end of the day, we will find a way to cooperate with member states and institutions for the common interests of Europe.
On the enlargement, do you share the views of the European Union, for instance?
Well, I believe that the approach of the European Union is that enlargement is an objective and merit-based process, and this I fully subscribe to.
But also for Ukraine, as a fast track, for instance, for Ukraine?
Well, I think that enlargement should be an objective and merit-based process for all.
So you think that basically Southeast Europe, Western Balkans have the priority on Ukraine?
Well, nobody has the priority in an objective and merit-based process. That's the bottom line of the objective and merit-based process, that there are no political priorities.
Objective and merit, but do you think that the European Union has the capacity to welcome Ukraine?
But that's
not only based on merit.
That's another question. I mean, if I look at the size, the population, the political and military situation in Ukraine, it would be very difficult to say that Ukraine is now ready to join the European Union, or we are in a position to say by any rational margin when Ukraine will be ready to join the European Union.
In terms of capacity by the European Union, it's much easier to open the gates to the Western Balkan countries.
Well, if I look at the level of their preparedness, if I look at the social and economic impact of their accession, this is considerably smaller than that of Ukraine.
The same goes for Serbia, despite the non-alignment to the EU sanctions on Russia, for instance.
Well, that's a political question. And if I speak of enlargement being an objective and merit-based process, this also means that the European Union also conforms to the negotiating framework that we adopted together with the candidate countries. And this negotiating framework clearly states that the countries should be fully aligned to CFSP at the time of their accession. So when we formulate political requirements that full alignment should be brought forward, then we do this outside the framework of the negotiations.
The core of your agenda for these 6 months is the competitiveness. To the eyes of many countries of the European Union, especially the bigger country of the European Union, the reindustrialization of Europe is the main goal. And stopping the outsourcing and also imposing tariffs on China manufacturing, especially when it comes to the Green Deal, say, economies. Hungary has a different position on this issue.
Well, I don't see the difference here. What I see is increasing Chinese investment of Europe, which goes against deindustrialization. This is the green reindustrialization of Europe that we do in economic cooperation with China. And I also see that now the supply chains of European and Chinese companies are so complex and intertwined that by increasing Chinese investment in Europe, for example, in areas where China is clearly the global leader in some industries, including green technology, this benefits both European and Chinese economic actors. So this contributes to the green transition, and this contributes to the reindustrialization of Europe. I don't see a strategic difference in objectives here.
Do you think that it was a mistake signing free trade agreements with China for the European Union and for some European Union countries?
I think that to a large part, the global prosperity that we enjoy now, including European prosperity, was the product of engaging China, including the membership of China in the WTO and engaging in economic and trade relations with China. And if we dismantle this relationship, then the global prosperity, welfare of Europe and also of other economic partners will feel the consequences.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
for
very much.
having me.